like your attitude.
Difficult.
The defense is wrong.
Everything that guy just says, bull. Thank you.
Tuesday, PFT OT. Some of the things we couldn't get to during our 2 hours on NBCSN. Chris Simms, Mike Florio. And I want to start with the Carolina Panthers. We saw Kyle Allen throw 4 interceptions on Sunday against the Atlanta Falcons. The Panthers are now 5-5. Remember last year, Chris, they were 6-2 and they fell apart. This year, 5-3 and in the midst of falling apart in the second half. David Tepper, owner of the team, met with Charlotte reporters on Monday, and he said that no decision has been made yet about Cam Newton for next year, but they're open to the idea of bringing him back. It's not exactly what you expect to hear from an owner of a team that has a franchise quarterback, right?
Yeah.
And it makes it creates the impression everything is in flux. $19.1 million compensation package, easily tradable, because there's plenty of teams out there that would love to have Cam Newton. Right. And this may just be a situation where it's time for a fresh start for everyone involved.
I agreed. Maybe that is it. I mean, I just think the fact that, David Tepper acknowledges that no decision has been made yet obviously tells you that there is a decision to be made and that they're having these conversations and these thoughts are there, which I find that kind of interesting, in the fact that he just revealed that alone. They're in a weird spot. Kyle Allen has done some good things now, but I don't look at Kyle Allen still at this point, and at no point did I ever look at it and go, oh, he's the future. They've got a good team, a good system around him. Norv Turner's done really well. But my big thing would be, hey, again, franchise quarterbacks and guys that we're talking about going to make $30 million a year and things like that. When things don't go well, can he carry you and make plays to get your offense through some bad times? And to me, that's where I would question Kyle Allen a little bit, certainly. And the other thing, Mike, to this is Carolina is playing just good enough to where they're not going to leave themselves in the position to get, a Joe Burrow or a Justin Herbert, who I think is the best quarterback coming out in the draft from Oregon, and of course now Tua in that situation's all, in flux, and we'll see where it goes. I do think Cam Newton's been disrespected through this process to a degree by other coaches and people even trying to insinuate that Kyle Allen was better than Cam Newton is just absolutely insane. But I'm with you. It might be that time where both needed just a fresh start and a new look for their singular self, and Cam Newton and the organization and the Carolina Panthers.
Part of the problem, Chris, is that with Cam Newton, he's either injured or if he's healthy, there's a fear he's going to be injured again. And I think that develops for the fan base and maybe for the organization a certain amount of fatigue.
Yes.
You're constantly worried about when is the next time Cam Newton's not going to be able to play. Oh, we're worried about using him as a runner. Oh, we're worried about him taking hits. Oh, no, hold your breath. And you'd like to get away from that at some point. The Colts and Andrew Luck, even though they would have liked to have kept Andrew Luck around, there's a certain relief that sets in when you're no longer obsessed week in and week out with the health of your quarterback. And there are plenty of other teams that would happily have a quarterback who may or may not have injury issues, because when he does play, he's going to be a lot better than the guys that they currently have available to them. So this could get very interesting. And here's the other side of it, too. You can't make a decision about Cam Newton until you know who's going to be making the decision. We don't know who's going to be making the decision because David Tepper also did not make that sweeping long-term commitment to his GM and his head coach. He just bought the team a year ago. He may decide after this season it's time to move on from either Marty Herney or Ron Rivera. Until you know who's going to be making your decisions, you can't even begin to make a decision about Cam Newton.
That's a very good point, Mike. You're right. So we don't know where that's going to go, and maybe the vision of the next offensive coordinator and head coach and what they got in store for what they want as a football team. Cam Newton, nonetheless, yes, he's banged. He played last year, right? He was banged up and sucked it up and played. And, of course, it didn't lead to good things. This is really the first year where he's missed big chunks of games throughout his career. Other than that, he's been healthy. But to what you're saying, Mike, I think it's totally real.
But Chris, he did play through it last year, but it got worse and worse and worse and worse down the stretch.
I know. I said that. You must have not been listening to me once again.
I was listening.
But but to your point, I totally agree with you. That decision is a tough one because we're getting towards the part of his career, and he's getting to that age where you start to wonder, ooh, is it going to be one thing after another with all the pounding that his body has taken through the years? So I think that's a very legitimate question, but I do think we both agree that there would be some teams that would entertain the idea of him coming to town. Right. The Bears.
Chargers.
Right. I mean, the Tennessee Titans, we'll see what they do. I mean, those are three teams that right off the bat just jump out to me as possibilities.
Patriots.
Okay, maybe.
If Tom Brady leaves.
If Tom Brady leaves, you're right.
Cam Newton.
Okay,
Cam
you're right.
Newton's 2-0 against the Patriots, bro.
When we know they can
2-0.
figure out a way to devise an offense to help him out and play to his strengths as well. I mean, we clearly know that. So you're right. If Tom Brady's out of there, I will not throw that out there. I know you said the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, too, if they thought Jameis Winston was not the answer and he left town. So I get all of those. I think that there's a very real possibility of any of that happening. Hey, maybe the Miami Dolphins want to go that route if they can't get in position to get a quarterback they want in the draft or whatever. But this is going to be interesting to watch here as the rest of the season unfolds. And I think a lot will depend on what Kyle Allen does down the stretch and how he responds to some of these bad games he's just recently had.
One team that probably would not be interested in Cam Newton is the New York Jets. Sam Darnold has played better in recent weeks, and he explained to reporters yesterday that it was sparked by an effort to go to Coach Adam Gase and talk to him about the offense, the things he likes, the things he doesn't like, the things he wants to do, the things he doesn't want to do. And Gase's reaction was, it's about damn time. See, and I think Gase wants to see his quarterbacks figure stuff out for themselves. You can't constantly beat into a guy's head what he needs to do. At some point, he needs to realize what he needs to do. He needs to know what's best for him. And it sounds like Gase recognized that the light finally came on for Sam Darnold, and maybe there is some hope that they can turn this into something positive down the stretch and lay the foundation for a 2020 that could be much better than 2019, Chris.
Yeah, that is that's a big moment. That really is. That's not easy to do for a young quarterback because you want to please your coach and you want to tell him you like every play. I mean, I had this with John Gruden. John Gruden, I witnessed, through my first 2 years and in year two where I was kind of in and out of the lineup where, hey, other quarterbacks, they might not say they like this play or like that play. I don't like this. I don't like that. And not that he got mad at them, but I know he was annoyed with it. The year we went to the playoffs in 2005, I don't know if I ever said I didn't like a play. The night before the game in a meeting, we'd go through all the plays in the game plan for the week. You like this? And yep. Oh, I like it. Yep. Oh, I love it. You love this play? I love it. Love it. And I know he loved that I loved it. So it gave him the freedom to call whatever he wanted. But there does come a time where you have to have that real conversation and, for lack of a better phrase, man up and say, I don't love this. There were plays where I didn't like, but I was afraid to say it as a young quarterback to John Gruden. I wanted him to like me. I wanted him to have the confidence in me. And I felt like when I just said yes, it gave him confidence, and there was that. But, Sam Darnold, very mature for a second-year guy, a lot of guts there to say that to your head coach, and good for him, and he certainly has been playing better ball as of late.
All right, the Colin Kaepernick story continues to be in the news, not because we're looking for reasons to make it in the news, but because people are talking about it. And Pete Carroll, the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, the only team that has brought Kaepernick in for a visit during his 32 months of free agency. They didn't bring him in for a workout. They just brought him in for a visit. That was back in May of 2017. Carroll, in talking about the workout that happened over the weekend, they had a scout there at the Falcons facility. The scout couldn't make it to the relocated workout. And Carroll told reporters on Monday that he was disappointed by what happened. We had planned to be at that workout. If it got changed around and we couldn't hang with it. We sent somebody. We couldn't stay with the changes that happened. We missed it. We were real curious. I was real curious to see how the workout went. Okay, two things. First, the videotape has been sent to all teams so you can see how the workout goes. You just have to press the button.
Yep.
Second, you can bring him in for a workout, Pete, any time you want. If you're real curious about what the guy can do whatever. They were on their bye week last week, right? bring him in if you're curious. They bring guys in all the time. That's what bothers me about this whole thing, and that's why I'm still upset that the NFL dropped this turd into the punch bowl last Tuesday, and then we had to deal with the issue, and we're still dealing with the issue, and both sides are to blame for the fact that it didn't work out the way that people expected it would. But there was no reason to do this. Teams can bring him in anytime they want. And so don't act like you're curious about what was going to happen at this league scheduled workout. You could still if you're that curious, you can still bring him in, Chris.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, though, the way it all unfolded is going to ruin the curiosity for a lot of teams because they're just going to go, man, I don't want to deal with this. Who knows? It's a lot. It is a lot. And like you said, it was not a good look for either side. Agreed. No teams were bringing him in. I do give the NFL some credit for trying to maybe jumpstart that process to a degree, to maybe give teams the confidence to do it. But then, of course, it became a fiasco from there on out.
The Seahawks already brought him in for a visit. They don't need the NFL's seal of approval if they want to bring him in. They're the one team that's already flirted with the guy.
Yep. Well,
that's what's astounding to me.
And they're not going to bring him in now, and I wouldn't suggest they would. They're not the team I would look at to bring them in. I mean, they have a good backup in Geno Smith. They have a team that's, if their defense plays the way we saw it last on Monday night, they're a real Super Bowl contender and can win the Super Bowl.
But what's he curious about then? Why didn't you just say we're set at quarterback?
Yeah,
Why didn't you
I
say
don't
that?
know. I guess maybe he was just curious to see what he looked like as an overall specimen and if he still had it. I don't know. I don't know what to say there. I don't. But either way, he was curious. Either way, they had a guy there to watch the workout. And as I told you, I had some scout friends who they made their way there too, and it just became, whoa, okay, the workout's been changed. It's an hour away, and I'm supposed to catch a flight later on today, and I'm going to miss the first 30 minutes of the workout now because I'm an hour away because we were notified so late.
It's on the way to the airport. It was on the way to the airport. It was on the way to the airport.
The
hour away was on the way to the airport.
It doesn't matter.
Here's something else I wanted to ask you. Here's something else I wanted to ask you. Because I ultimately think that the problem here is the philosophy of a backup quarterback.
Yeah.
Right? Colin Kaepernick's going to show up. If he shows up as the number 2 or number 3 guy on the depth chart, he's going to want to play, or people who support him are going to want him to play. And that's going to disrupt things because the backup has to have, in most cases, the backup has to have the mindset of, I know I'm not playing. I'm here to support the starter. I'm here to replace the starter if he's injured. I'm here to push the starter. I'm here to do everything necessary to ensure that the number 1 quarterback on the depth chart is as successful as possible. I mean, when you were a backup, was that your mindset, or was your mindset, I want to beat this guy's butt and I want to win the job? Because I feel like there's two different approaches, but most of the time the backup quarterback isn't a guy who should have the aspiration to become the starter.
You're right. Well, and I mean, this is very real. I mean, during training camp, I wanted to beat their butt. Now, when I knew, okay, I'm going to be the backup, I tried to be the best teammate and backup quarterback I could be as far as helping them out when they came off the sideline or something we might have saw or talked about in the meetings during the week. But really, the bottom line issue is if you're too talented, a lot of teams don't want you as a backup because it muddles the conversation as far as who's the leader of the team. If you're a really talented backup and every day you go out there and do things where – whoa, it starts to be like, why don't we play that guy as soon as the starter messes up? And a lot of teams don't want to do that. They want to frame their team as our starting quarterback's our leader. He's the leader of the ship. He's the guy. Let's not divide the locker room and do things like that. That's the era we're in. There was an era of we had some talented backup quarterbacks. Now, if you're too talented and you're deemed out as a starter, you're basically going to be run out of the league. And they're going to go, no, we'll just find a guy that's like, he's good in the meeting room. He knows the checks. He can get us in and out of the huddle. I mean, that's the way a lot of teams err. And I hear that a lot from teams all across the board. And that's really, a little bit of the issue with a Kaepernick. And I know that's what scared teams away from him originally, was that if their starter played bad, players in the locker room were going to start to clamor for Kaepernick to play because his talent is evident. And that becomes an issue for organizations at times.
That was one of the issues at the time in Seattle when they brought him in.
Yes.
Because in 2017, there was still that group of guys in the locker room that hadn't fully embraced Russell Wilson, the Richard Shermans of the world. And there was a concern that if Russell Wilson has a bad day, you're going to have this push to put Kaepernick on the field. And it's one thing to have it coming from the outside. You start having it come from the inside, and then you really do have a problem.
Exactly right. That is the problem. And, again, I think that's why, here in especially the last 10, 12 years, with a lot of teams, you go, man, there's more talented quarterbacks out there to be your backup. But they go, nah, we're just going to go with this guy because he knows the offense and he can run the offense if he needs to. And we'll roll the dice with the way the rules are in the NFL right now that our quarterback won't get hurt and you can get away with it.
All right, one last point before we go today, and this relates to JayZ, who in October of 2017 or late September wore a Colin Kaepernick jersey for a musical performance on Saturday Night Live. He was a big supporter of Colin Kaepernick. Then he partners with the league earlier this year, and he says this isn't about Colin Kaepernick getting a job. This is about moving forward and helping millions of people. And he got criticized for that. And now the Kaepernick thing is back on the front burner thanks to the NFL taking the pot and pulling it forward and turning the heat up. And it's been strange this week, Chris, because there have been reports that JayZ was part of the motivation for doing it. I've heard that he wasn't. Well, JayZ hasn't said anything about it. It's very easy to post a tweet. It's very easy to make it known in your own voice and in your own name what role, if any, you had in this. And it became even crazier over the weekend. Sports Illustrated reported that JayZ was disappointed that Colin Kaepernick turned this opportunity into a publicity stunt. And then yesterday, Rock Nation, the agency and music business that JayZ owns, they posted a tweet saying, according to a source, JayZ has spoken to no sources. And it's just odd to me that he's so conspicuously quiet.
Yeah.
Everybody's got an opinion on this, right? This is the latest red state, blue state type of an issue.
Yeah.
You either support Colin Kaepernick and you blame the NFL, or you don't support Colin Kaepernick and you blame him for what happened, although I still think that there's a middle ground where you understand both sides are to blame, and I'm trying to stay in that strip. But whatever JayZ's take on it is, why don't you share it? Why don't you say what you believe on this? Surely you have an opinion. That's what's odd to me, that he said nothing about this at a time when everyone clearly has a view on it.
Well, he got a lot of backlash for, the fact that he struck this deal with Rock Nation and the NFL to begin with, where, Eric Reed and a number of players didn't like it because they thought he was capitalizing off of the Colin Kaepernick issue and doing those things that way. And I think, ultimately that probably made him a little gun shy in this conversation to put himself out there once again. I do believe that he's firmly in the corner of a Colin Kaepernick. I do. And I think from the get-go last week, I said I would think that Colin Kaepernick has had a conversation with Roger Goodell or maybe some of the owners to maybe encourage this. I don't think he was like at 345 Park Ave in the meeting rooms.
You mean JayZ?
JayZ, right. I do think that he's probably had that conversation. I don't think he was probably in 345 Park Ave over the last month, like banging his hand on the table like, we got to have a workout happen. You need to make it happen. No, I think he's probably let it be known, and that's it. And I do think the NFL and Roger Goodell, I take him at his word that where we saw that Adam Schefter reported that, Goodell felt bad about the situation in general. He's a human being, Roger Goodell.
Wait a minute. I don't. Anytime this stuff is, he can come out and say why he did it. I don't need Schefter to tell me what, because the whole thing stinks to me from every perspective. So I'm not ready to accept anything that anyone says other than what they say in their own voice. And the only person who has spoken in the last week in his own voice about any of this is Kaepernick. Yeah. If Roger Goodell's got something to say, he can say so. Now, he was asked about it by Gary Myers, and we've had access to the video, and he explained that this is something that was sparked by Jeff Nally, the agent for Colin Kaepernick, his memo from a month or so ago pointing out that Colin still hasn't gotten an opportunity. So Goodell has said a little bit. But I mean, just look, if JayZ's got something to say, back to the original point, if he's got something to say, say it. And how do you not have something to say on this? How do you not have an opinion on this? It's just odd to me that a guy with the influence of JayZ, who's previously supported Kaepernick, who's gotten himself in a little hot water from a PR standpoint with the NFL partnership, how do you, number one, not have an opinion, and number two, not share it.
Well,
It's
he's
just odd.
maybe,
I'm not saying he's right or wrong.
Right,
I'm
I
just
get
saying
you.
it's odd.
Well, maybe he's contractually obligated not to say anything with this whole thing. Maybe this is one of the things in the language of their contract that he couldn't be too vocal about this publicly or something like that. I don't know. And again, I'm all for what Colin Kaepernick's fighting for. I really am. Would I kneel for the anthem? Absolutely not. I would not. I would certainly stand up for the national anthem and do that. But I understand what he's fighting for. But also at the same time right now, that was an absolute disaster this past weekend. It was. And I know the NFL is partly to blame. And it seems like it was a little poor. Not a little. It was poorly orchestrated and everything that way. But I also think Colin Kaepernick did a poor job, too, to promote himself. You know, again, you're trying to get teams to sign you, and you're going to wear, you know, a T-shirt that's got a lot of motives on it. You're going to do a press conference with a guy behind you who's got a hoodie on that's a strip club. Like, those aren't things owners and coaches are going to look at and go,
no players go to strip clubs.
They go but they don't wear them in a press conference when they don't have a job. I'm just telling you, those are things I'm just telling you a coach and an owner of a team is going to look at and go, oh, yep, that's who I want on my team. You know, he won't ruffle any feathers. So that's the issue too. I'm just saying that's part of it.
I mean, look, there's a lot of issues involved, and the bottom line is the guy isn't unemployed because of his football abilities. There are other issues that have been
totally
at play
right.
for 32 months, and I don't think they want him back, and I don't think he wants to come back.
I think that's true.
Both sides have used the last week as a way to advance their own PR and or legal agendas. And as we explained during the show, and one of the reasons why they got spot number 3 for me in the Goats in a Bad Way draft, I'm upset that we've had to deal with this.
Mm-hmm.
We shouldn't have to. You know, the NFL counts on us as the media to promote their sport. They got a great thing going. Think about it. They get paid billions for what amounts to a 3-hour at a time infomercial for their product. So people will follow and pay attention and pay money and buy stuff and go to games. They get paid billions for that infomercial. And there's a media out there that covers, that fuels the machine, that writes about it and talks about it and promotes the sport. So while we're in the process of promoting organically and naturally the 2019 season, the NFL's 100th season, if you haven't heard. If you heard, it's a 100th season. They do this. It's astounding to me. And Kaepernick made it worse, and they made it worse, and it ended up being a sideshow and a distraction that no one wanted. I didn't want it. You didn't want it. Nobody wanted it.
Nope.
And now I want to go take a nap.
Yep, I'm done. It's an exhausting conversation because it is an emotional one.
Oh, and the other thing, too, is we got to be careful about everything we say because you never know. We're going to make this person mad or that person mad or somebody's going to be upset. Look, we didn't want this, folks. They dropped this crap onto us, and we've had to deal with it for the last week. So shame on the NFL and shame on Colin Kaepernick for creating a distraction to what otherwise is and was a very compelling football season, and we hope to get back to that when PFT Live resumes tomorrow morning. Enjoy your day. A new PFT PM coming later today, Week 11 awards, plus MDS and I breaking down whatever news may develop between now and then. Chris, enjoy your day. We'll do this again tomorrow.
Thanks, dude. See ya.